What's up everyone, welcome back to the heaviest show in the universe. Today we are reviewing Behemoth's brand new album, Opus Contra NatVRAM. I think that's how it's pronounced. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Behemoth doesn't need a lot of introduction, but if you're new to them, they're a Polish extreme metal band. They formed in 1991, and back in the day, man, Behemoth was the definition of true cult black metal. And for the first 5 years of their career, that's what they played. It was black metal. But then with the release of Satanica in 1999, they really moved into a death metal sound. And for a while, they were pretty death metal. But they kept those black metal elements. And so people started to call it black and death metal. And along with Vader, they really started that movement of black and death metal. And they've released nothing but fantastic albums. Even their black metal albums, like From the Pagan Vastlands, pretty freaking banger. But they reached a pinnacle in their careers in 2014 with the release of The Satanist, and then again a few years later with I Loved You at Your Darkest. This is their 12th studio album. These guys have been killing it for a while. Now, my favorite thing about Behemoth is the way they carry themselves. Metal is all about going against the mainstream for the most part. And so a lot of metal fans and a lot of metal bands like to adopt this attitude of screw the mainstream, we're better than the mainstream. But when it comes down to it, man, they'll just go with the mainstream when it comes to political ideas, when it comes to their attitude towards the world, when it comes to being asked what they think about things. They'll just go with the mainstream idea. So it's kind of a joke when metal heads and metal bands like to act like they're all anti-mainstream when you ask them their opinions on things and you ask them what they think about things, and they're just gonna blurt out any mainstream nonsense that they've heard on the news or what their friends said or what they heard on some website. And places like Loudwire are the biggest perpetrators of this absolute joke that is being anti-mainstream in the metal community. Except for when it comes to Behemoth. These guys are actual anti-mainstream. They have their own thoughts, they're individuals, they don't conform to any political idea or opinion. Sometimes Nurgle does some cringy stuff here and there, but for the most part, he's an individual. And other band members, they're individuals, and they don't let what people say affect their music, their views on things, and how they make their art. And that's my favorite thing about Behemoth, even more so than their music. But without further ado, let's get right into their music. So, with the release of The Satanist in 2014, man, Behemoth took a big turn with their music. They started going back to their roots a little bit more, including that intense black metal sound into their music a lot more. In my opinion, an album like The Satanist or even I Loved You at Your Darkest is more black metal than it is death metal. That trend continues here on this album as well. And so we start off with the track Post God Nirvana. Now, this isn't really a song, this is more of an intro to the album. This whole album is really about that mindset of Behemoth that I mentioned before. It's about Behemoth's rebellious attitude and against the grain approach to the world. The album title itself, according to Nurgle, means going against the current. So with Post God Nirvana, the intro track, this is seen as a call to arms, a rallying cry for the theme of the album, getting you set for what the rest of the album is about to deliver. And so that first track really hypes you up and gets you going into the second track, which in my opinion is signature Behemoth. This is black metal. I know some losers are gonna type in the comments,
well, the production is actually too clean for it to be true cult black metal. I don't approve.
And listen, that guy is a fucking nerd, because this is black metal. It doesn't need to have shit production in order to be black metal. The vibe, the atmosphere, the way everything's layered together, this is signature black metal that you could easily rip from The Blaze in the Northern Sky. And right off the bat, just with this song, you can hear the quality in the production. The bass is full and clear and present. Nurgle's vocals are so filling and intense, and Inferno's drumming is just off the chain, as it always is. And one of the first things I noticed is that Nurgle, these past 3 albums, has become such a well-rounded guitarist. He sounds so good. The riffs he's writing are so original atmospheric and melodic. And it's so much different from that string of albums from 1999 to The Apostasy in 2007. Grown so much, and I feel like this song is like a pinnacle of that. And moving on to Of My Herculean Exile, one of the first singles released for this album, it really shines through just how awesome of a lyricist Nergal is. The lyrics are so epic and full and inviting you into their world. You can't not listen and read these lyrics and feel like you're in some Egyptian world, some Syrian lore, some epic place with Greek gods. These are some of the most well-written lyrics in metal. They're absolutely fantastic. And the delivery of the lyrics is an absolute sight to behold, or I guess a sound to behold for your ears. It's so well done. And then when I got into the middle of the album with Neo Spartacus and Disinheritance, I really realized something about Behemoth. Metal is all about the riff. Pretty much anything you listen to, from death metal to thrash to doom, man, it's all about the riff. Now that's really not the same in black metal. Black metal is all about the atmosphere, the delivery, what you're building around the music. Everything comes together, the drums, the vocals, the bass, the guitars, everything comes together to create an atmospheric package that makes you feel a certain way, that gives you a certain vibe. And Behemoth are the undisputed kings of this in all of metal. When the lore of their lyrics mixed with the sound of the music and Nergal's powerful voice, Inferno's insane drumming, all mixed together, bring you into their world. It creates this vibe, this atmosphere that you're supplanted into so epically. It's so intense, it's so beautiful, and it's never ending on any of their songs. And so if you're going to be listening to this album looking for riffs, well, I mean, there's some banging riffs on here, but it's less about the riffs and more about the entire package that's put together. And they really are masters of this rolling atmospheric beat that has the arpeggiated chords and riffs on top of these epic rolling drum beats that you don't really hear anywhere else. Take a listen. And not only that, they always place these orchestral and choir elements in their music so carefully, so expertly placed. The presence of everything all together, it can't be beat in all of metal. And on top of all that, they are amazing songwriters. I'm talking about like choruses, I'm talking about verses. These are all excellently written as well. I cannot wait to be seeing Behemoth live and chanting, "I am nothing without him." Like, it's gonna be sick. And the whole crowd is gonna be chanting that, with them on stage and their clothing and the flames and the candles and the face paint, the costumes. It's a beautiful art show. This is an absolutely fantastic piece of art from front to back. It's excellent. And when it came to bad things to say about this album, I mean, I really didn't have any bad things to say. I couldn't think of anything bad to say at all, except for maybe one thing. So let's get it. So the one bad thing I have to say about this album is sometimes I got a little bored. That's just me. See, as much as I like black metal, I'm more about the riff when it comes to metal. That's why I listen to metal, the heaviness, the riff, the guttural vocals on top of those heavy riffs, things like that. Such a visceral experience to hear those epic guttural vocals on top of a great riff with a fantastic drum beat and some stanky groovy bass in the background. It's unbeatable in all of music. And Behemoth, they don't really deliver that. Like I mentioned before, they're very atmospheric. It's about the whole as opposed to the single parts of the music. Now, for people who really like black metal and aren't nerds about it, like, they're really gonna enjoy these Behemoth albums because they're all about the atmosphere. They're all about the storytelling and the lore and the vibe it creates. And that's really what black metal is all about. Black metal isn't about the riffs, though black metal sometimes has awesome riffs and those crazy black and roll drum beats in the background that get you grooving. There's tons of that here, and that's totally okay, but for me, sometimes I found it a little boring. And so, moving on to what score I'm gonna give this album, it was really tough because I'm listening and I'm like, this is a perfect album. This is a 10 out of 10 album. But when I'm being realistic about how I feel, and that's how I like to rate my albums, is based on how I feel, it's not a 10 out of 10 album for me. But I feel like objectively, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with this album. And I hope that makes sense to everyone. I hope everyone can understand that when I reveal my score for this album. So, adding up each individual score of each individual song, dividing by the number of songs on the album, we come to a score of 8.9 out of 10. Which, on the heaviest show in the universe rating scale, is an S tier banger. Behemoth are absolute gods, absolute legends, and I enjoy all of their albums. I enjoy listening to them all the time. I don't think they've ever released a bad album. Even those early black metal albums, I can bang those away. But I want to hear what you thought of this album. Let me know down below. What do you think of Behemoth? What do you think of their attitude towards the world? Mainly Nurgle. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next episode of the heaviest show in the universe. Long live metal.